It was the kind of afternoon you'd think was safe, kids playing, sprinklers running, neighbors watering their lawns. Nobody expected a single gunshot to shatter that calm. Nobody except perhaps the man who would never let that shot go unanswered. Maple Ridge was that kind of place: picket fences, manicured grass, and an HOA that mistook rules for righteousness. For most families, it was a quiet life. For the Hartmans, it was home. For 10-year-old Evan, it was the place he learned to whistle as he rode his scooter. Evan loved two things: drawing superheroes and pretending his wheelchair was a race car. He had a way of laughing that made strangers stop and smile. His disability never defined him, in a neighborhood small on patience and big on rules that should have been enough. Then there was Marla. To the board, she was leadership. To most neighbors, she was a hand with a checklist. To few, she was petty. To some, dangerous. Marla loved order. She loved control. And when she saw what she thought was an exception, anything that didn't fit her rulebook, she acted quickly, loudly, and sometimes cruelly. One late afternoon, the routine squabble escalated. A complaint, a harsh word, an accusation. Neighbors gathered, voices rose. Marla, livid that Evan's corner of the sidewalk had been illegally modified, confronted the boy. A scuffle of words turned into a physical shove. People shouted. Someone pushed back. The sound of the gunshot drowned out everything else. Evan fell. The world spun into emergency protocol screams, a frantic call to 911, neighbors trying to help. But the one thing that couldn't be undone had been done. Jacob Hartman was not a man the neighborhood had come to fear. He'd kept his life private. A single father, late-night shift worker, always the one to lend a hand with a trailer or a ladder. What most people didn't know, Jacob was a Navy SEAL, a man who had stared at chaos and kept breathing. He'd learned in distant conflicts how quickly life can change. For Jacob, the world narrowed to 1% of possibility that he might still reach his son in time. Jacob refused to let panic guide him. Instead, he did what he was trained for. He assessed, he acted, he kept hope alive until professionals took over. The police arrived, and the scene became a study in contradictions. Marla's story split under scrutiny. Witnesses offered fragments: a shove in return, a raised voice, but the gun appeared in one hand alone. Fingerprints, video from a doorbell cam, a neighbor's dash cam. Pieces began to fit. And then a detail no one expected: Marla's cam smelled of liquor. Her alibi shaky, her anger on tape, the weapon in her purse. The evidence piled up. Jake didn't need to watch the footage to know the truth. He'd seen enough in his life to see the meaning behind a single action. He'd seen the price of timidity. Now he would choose a path that would not only seek justice for Evan, but make sure Marla could never wield power again. Jacob showed up to the HOA meeting not as a man bent on revenge, but as a controlled storm. He laid the evidence on the table: witness statements, video, an eyewitness who had sworn Marla fired the shot. His voice did not tremble. He let the facts speak. But facts delivered by a man who had been trained to be precise and unflinching have weight. She hadn't expected that. She hadn't expected anything except the board's usual cover-ups. This was not the script she wrote for herself. The video circulated. The police made an arrest. Charges were filed: homicide, aggravated assault, illegal possession of a firearm. The HOA splintered. Board members who had looked the other way found themselves answering to investigators, and the neighborhood that once kept secrets began to speak. Justice moved in its own time. Jacob didn't revel in it, but he made sure it happened. He used his training not to punish with violence, but to ensure the system could not be corrupted by small tyrants with clipboards. Evan did not come home. That truth sits like a stone for Jacob, for the family, and for everyone who loved him. You cannot turn back the clock. You cannot unsay what was said or unfire what was fired. But you can make sure the world remembers. You can make sure the person who took a life cannot take their power again. Jacob, he was my boy. He loved loud colors. He loved running down the driveway. If bringing this out into the light stops this from happening to someone else, then I will do it. That's what we do. We protect. Marla will spend years answering for what she did. The HOA was forced to reform. Board members replaced, policies rewritten. Not because Jacob wanted revenge, but because he demanded responsibility. The quiet brutality of small power plays was exposed. This is a story about a mother's grief, a father's resolve, and a community learning the hard way that cruelty hides behind bureaucracy. It's a reminder: if you see something wrong, say something. If you're in a position of power, use it to lift people, not to push them down. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear that courage can come in plain clothes, and that sometimes the best revenge is ensuring the truth is seen and has consequences.